I'm Karina Hembury. I'm the Managing Director at Access Training, and we're an independent training provider.
What's the kind of background at Access Training? Why is this particularly interesting to you guys?
Yeah, so as I said, Access Training, we're an independent training provider, and actually we are co-owned by NCHA and by Futures Housing Group. Yeah. So, and that relationship has existed for over 10 years now. So we are, through that, sort of rooted in housing, and that's been a really big part of our development and evolution over the last 10 years to be more involved in training in the housing sector of all sorts, so apprenticeships, qualifications for new entrants and for more experienced staff as well.
So the kind of the changes that have come about now, then you're able to kind of move with those housing associations, knowing the sector so well.
Absolutely. So yeah, we've been delivering those CIH qualifications and housing apprenticeships for about 6 or 7 years now. Yeah. So it's something that we've got lots of experience in doing. We have some fantastic trainers and tutors that work for us that are housing professionals themselves, that bring with them a wealth of knowledge that they are very eager to share with people and help them along their journey with their qualifications.
Brilliant. So, Paul, just going back to the Social Housing Regulation Act, it's very hard to say, that you talked about earlier. This has placed a much stronger emphasis on customer satisfaction, transparency and professional standards, which you've already touched on. So what does that actually mean for housing providers in practice? So, you know, forget what's kind of the ideal. What does that mean for organisations like NCHA?
Well, I think of NCHA and I think of the vision that we have. And an element of that vision is to provide great services for our customers and to help them have better lives, certainly the best life that they can. And I think professionalising, enhancing the skill set of our colleagues and getting a consistency of skill means you can grow your own people. So there's something about internal progression, which is a valuable part of this. But there's also something about the customer then receiving a consistent and we hope great service, which means some of the frustrations you hear about in terms of housing, people don't get if they work for organisations where the colleagues who work there are heavily skilled. And that's, I think, the driver behind all of this, is to try and make sure that we do have that consistency and our customers know what to expect. And
Helena, I'm guessing at Futures you would echo Paul's view there around how developing colleagues will kind of help your organisation meet the new expectations.
Yeah, so obviously closely linked to what Paul just said, team members that are, you know, equipped with the training and the knowledge that they need to do a good job are happier in the workplace. And we all know that, you know, happy staff and team members are able to deliver services which are much better, and therefore better services for customers. The other thing we know about our customer service is that when our customers are satisfied and you know happier, then they're more likely to engage with us. And part of the Social Housing Regulation Act is about listening to customers and responding to what customers are telling us in order to make sure that our services meet those individual customer needs. So yeah, very closely linked to what Paul said.
Brilliant, thank you. So Karina, we talked there, Paul mentioned briefly about those recognised qualifications. What do you think are the key benefits of having those qualifications within the business, both for the business and for the colleague that's going through the programme?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we know that there's a given bit, which is that this will be part of the regulations, that there is an expectation for managers and execs to be qualified, whether that's at level 4 or level 5. Mm-hmm. But actually, I think there are wider benefits to that being embedded throughout the whole organisation. What the regulations are very much looking at doing is almost a sort of top-down approach, I suppose, with that. But I know a number of the organisations that we work with are looking at a bottom-up approach as well, so bringing those qualifications in more widely. And really the benefit of that is for the staff, they are feeling that the organisation is investing in them and their professional development, which I think is a real positive for them as individuals. It gives them a great opportunity to engage with other people, whether that's people within their organisation or in other organisations if they're part of an open cohort. So it increases their networking and their exposure to others and different ways of working, which is going to really help them too. And gives them usually a real confidence boost, I think. Sometimes getting back into training for people which they may not have done formal education for quite a few years can be quite a scary thing, quite a daunting proposition. But the way that we work really supports them as an individual so that they can take those baby steps that they might need to, have a bit of hand-holding initially, and then hopefully be flying through it and really seeing the benefits of it.
So I'll stay with you then, Karina. So you've talked a lot then about the kind of range of qualifications that you offer, kind of from leadership down to the more kind of operational side of things. Do you want to just talk us through those that are available?
Yeah.
And how they kind of fit into the structure of an organisation?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the housing qualifications and for the apprenticeships, we have a sort of entry level which starts at level 2. So that would be for new entrants into housing. They might be in housing officer roles, or they might be in customer service roles. That's going to give them a really good grounding into the sector and understanding the basics of it. And then it progresses through from level 3, level 4 with the apprenticeships. That's where that stops. But then we have the level 5 with the CIH qualifications that go all the way up. And obviously by the time you're up there, you're looking at more strategic things. But there is this sort of golden thread throughout them all of professional practice and making sure that people are learning what that means for them, what is appropriate for them at the level they're at, and what the expectations are for them, not just within the organisation, but I guess sort of nationally, because these qualifications are transferable for individuals and things as well.
So you've talked quite a lot about the benefits of career development on individuals and those people, but in your experience, where have you seen organisations benefit as well? Obviously, in the case of NCAHA, there's quite a literal benefit in that regulator award, but
yeah. So I think the organisations that we work in will see, similar benefits to what Paul's described there. But I think it's all about then the way that you support that organisation, and that's something that we try to do really well. We really work in partnership with organisations to understand what their needs are, and then we'll adapt and tailor training and what might be needed. So whether that's how we're delivering, where we're delivering, when we're delivering, whether people are part of cohorts, open, closed or closed cohorts, or whether it's apprenticeships, whether it's commercial training, whatever those needs are, we'll try and work together to map that out, to look at succession planning, for instance, to try and identify, first of all, what are the priorities, where do you actually need that training, which are the colleagues that are going to benefit the most, and help organisations to work through that.
For any housing organisations watching, kind of what's the best way for people to get started? How what would your advice be for those early steps?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, we'd love to hear from any organisation so that we can see how we can help them. But what we're finding with people that we're working at, the first steps that people are doing is carrying out a bit of a sort of skills analysis. So looking at their organisation, identifying the colleagues that they've got. Where are their qualifications levels sitting at the moment? Where are their skills needs? So mapping that out so that you've got a clear idea of what needs to be done. Then obviously the next step is thinking about when and how, what's going to be the best route for that. So there are funded training options out there, which are obviously really attractive for organisations. But there's different pros and cons of all of those. So reaching out to organisations that can help you along and can give you advice and insight into how different organisations are doing it, because it is really different for different organisations. So we work with some really large housing associations, but also really small ones and everywhere in between. And the skills needs and the qualification needs will be really different depending on what history that organisation has had with investing in training and where their staff have come from. So it will always be different. So doing that really good analysis up front to get all of that information so that you can then start the planning is important.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice.